I'd like to invite Mafipe Chunga to give a presentation on building businesses to last. Lessons from some of Zambia's biggest businesses. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mafipe Chunga.
We're still waiting on the projector, but I think I'll get started anyway. The first part of a discussion like this is to say a lot of thank yous to the organizers. The amount of effort required to get to this point is phenomenal. So a number of thank yous that need to go to Barclays Bank, UK Aid, PEP, Zanaco, Scaling Up Nutrition, Business Networks, Cavmont, and Green Jobs. Could I have a round of applause for all of those, please? I'm still hoping on the presentation, but as they say, the show must go on. This morning's talk is about building businesses at last. My profile will appear at some point, but that's the question you should be asking is, what do you know about businesses and what do you bring to the table? Why should you be listening to this presentation today? On the one hand, it'll say that I've got a law degree, an accounting degree, I'm a chartered accountant, and I've worked as a business consultant for 10 years. But on the other side of that, I've also worked in family businesses. I've been an entrepreneur as well. I've sold fruit out of the back of a truck. I have owned a market stand. I've owned a shop, and for 3 years I was also an entrepreneur. So when I look around the room and I see entrepreneurs, I know what you're going through. I've also been fortunate enough to be a consultant for 10 years. I've also been a bank manager, so I've received those applications and I know what people are hoping for, what they hope the bank will do for them, or what's actually happening at the end of the day. So I do know. Now, tackling a topic like this is a challenging one because you're looking for a data point, you're looking for research and facts, and there isn't much about why Zambian businesses struggle to transition from small ones to larger ones. So what I've kind of done is to focus more on anecdotal evidence, and I'm looking and doing a gap analysis between multinational companies and local SMEs, and I'll look for some feedback in the crowd for you to help. The purpose of the presentation is that I want everyone to get a sense of what are the things that hold back Zambian businesses, so that when you're planning your own business, you can look and say, am I being affected by these things? It's not to put local SMEs down, but it's actually to open your eyes to the things that hold us back, okay? At the end of the day, nobody but Zambians will develop this country. For all the FDI, it'll only have an impact if there are partnerships with Zambians. For all the multinationals that will open offices here, they need local partners who are strong, to both compete with them and to work with them. So it's about you and it's about finding your niche in the business community. So, if we have the presentation, or it's going to come up at some point, but anyway, I've identified 7 things that seem to hold back Zambian businesses, and I'll run through you each of them in a moment. So they are what I call focus, the people, operations, marketing, administration, funding, and trust. Now, I mentioned earlier on that this information usually lacks data points. If you were traveling through Lusaka and you're late, and you ask a cab driver to give you directions, okay? He can tell you, turn left, turn right. You might ask him, do you have a map for this? He says, no, I just know. It reminds me of a lecture that I attended years ago. The gist of the lecture, it was an accounting lecture, and the lecturer spent an hour telling us about the accounting package that was in front of us and what it can do, etc. And I'd realized that everything that I've been training to do is already being done by the computer, so I asked the question, if the computer can do all of these things, what am I supposed to be doing? And he says to me, you're supposed to be the expert who will identify when it's wrong and what needs to be done. So I'm trying to point out today, what is wrong? What are we doing wrong as SMEs, and why aren't we growing? So the first point that I'll focus on is going to be the focus, okay? Presentation is here. Thank you very much. So there's the profile I talked about. Ignore that. It's the street profile I should be focused on. Second one. So here we are, looking at the focus in the top end, okay? What does your business do and why? So we're doing the gap analysis between the MNC and the local company. The MNC will normally have a source country and a skill set, where there's something in particular that they do, something they're good at. Then they bring it to this country and they roll it out. An SME, by contrast, will normally start out by saying, who is doing well? What business is making money? And then they'll look to replicate that. So many times over, I see somebody say, I'm going to get a bus. Why? There's money in that thing. It brings cash every day. So their focus is on somebody else's business instead of their own, somebody else's skill set instead of their own. That's mistake number one. So what does your business do and why? Do you hold an advantage there? If you do, what is it? How are you leveraging it? Maybe you worked as an engineer. It makes sense to own a business that relates to that. But for you to stand up and just say, okay, I think that business is good, those are problems. It's kind of like you buy a car and somebody asks you, what kind of fuel does it use? I don't know, but it's good. This is a fast car. You're already on the wrong track. The second one is the people. Most successful entrepreneurs and even successful corporates that I know of have had the same staff or the same core of staff for a very long period of time. Quite often I meet entrepreneurs and they talk about their aspirations, their dreams, their vision for the company, and they share that with external parties, but they don't often share that with their own staff. They don't offer a structure for people to aspire to something and say to them, look, if we can get the business to this point, it will grow. An MNC, in contrast, will have a very clear structure of development, and they'll have a strategic plan, and they say, if we can get to this point, we'll open a new branch. If we open a new branch, we need 10 new people. That means that you will have an opportunity to become a branch manager. And the staff within that organization are coordinated in the way that they're working. In contrast to this, I often find that local SMEs will have brilliant plans, visions, but they're not communicated to the staff. And the staff end up seeing a very different picture of what's taking place. They don't seem to acknowledge and realize that, just a moment, we were joking about this earlier. They don't seem to realize that, I think we've dealt with that now. Thank you. They don't seem to realize that the entrepreneur is struggling. He's borrowing money to pay their salaries. All they see is the cash coming through the till. And they say, you know what? We're making so much money here, and he's only paying me this. And that often comes from a lack of communication between the business owner and the employees. So it's one area where we really need to change. Also, knowledge about the business. Most employees only have knowledge about the specific thing that they're doing. They're not given the wider understanding of this is how the business is performing. This is where we need to get to for us to increase salaries, for us to bring in new benefits, new conditions. So there's an important role for the business owner to develop his communication skills with the business. The next one are the operations. On one hand, you have an MNC that has meticulous rules, regulations, procedures, and policies, and the output of that is a certain standard of quality. And that's why we often start talking of multinationals providing excellent services. Local businesses also often have one charismatic person who holds that vision, but has not articulated that into a set of rules. So what you see is that when that person is away for a few days, the business slows down. People are not making decisions. People are not following through on things. It's because they lack the confidence to go forward and say, these are the rules and I'm going to implement them. This is what we've decided. We often don't have policies and procedures. They're completely overlooked. Going on to marketing. An MNC has got a very clear picture about what they provide and who their target market is. So what they're able to do is focus on that target market, and they have a marketing campaign that aims to attract those clients. In contrast to this, most SMEs begin with what you'd call an MLM, a multi-level marketing strategy. That usually begins with, who do I know who can buy this product? And who do they know who can buy the product? So they're often not spending on marketing per se. They're spending on leveraging their networks. For certain businesses, especially a B2B business, business to business, it can work. But it won't work when you get a product that needs to go out to a mass market. It'll work to a limited extent. Let's say something like chickens. If I start selling chickens in my office, I'll have the 20 people I know in there, and once they've bought those chickens, my business is capped out. Then the next formula you find is someone says, you know, these things are not really moving. I think I'll sell them on credit. So what you're actually doing there is you're operating a microfin, which is backed by an asset of some kind, which is the chickens, but you're not actually running a poultry business. We often get that wrong. We're not marketing to the public. We're marketing to a network of people. A multi-level marketing agency has got a cap, and that cap works out that each person has got a limited network. When they reach the end of that network, they aim to recruit the next person. And they do that by offering some kind of large incentive, a large margin for the resellers. Most local businesses don't reach the stage where they're able to offer some kind of incentive to resell the product, and it caps out very quickly. Going on to the next point, which is administration. Again, there's very little information about this, but there's an article by a lady called Kedia Shah, and I'll post this on my Twitter account a bit later. And they looked into businesses and formalization in Zambia, and they worked out that only 2 in every 100 Zambian businesses, just 2%, are registered for taxes and annual returns. 2 in every 100. That means if that was an exam, that would be an extremely poor result. An extremely poor result. We would have failed many times over. Fortunately, we get the opportunity to make adjustments and change these things. Why is that important to have proper administration? The first thing is that most people in business are hoping for that opportunity that will take them to the next level. It's going to be a potential business partner, somebody who will appear and say, look, I'm already in this business, I'm looking to expand and I need a partner. At that point, their focus is going to shift to the administration of the business. If you haven't been paying taxes, you don't have a business, you have a future liability to the taxman. If you are not registered, you have nothing to discuss with them. If you don't have financials, you don't have a profile and a track record that you can sell. So administration needs to shoot straight to the top of your list of requirements if you are a local business. For a long time, it's been stylish not to pay taxes, but the truth of the matter is, taxes demonstrate that you're running a legitimate business and you're able to present yourself before the taxman. That gives a potential investor a lot of confidence in your business. Without that, you're nowhere. Next point, we're looking at who will finance it, funding. I often meet entrepreneurs who've got a misconception. Their misconception is that somebody else ought to take the risk for their business. No. Once a business is established, you are selling it for a premium or somebody is buying in and joining you at a premium because you've achieved something. You've actually established that the business is viable, profitable, sustainable. So anybody who joins you at that point is taking less of a risk than you took in the early stages. Therefore, they must pay you for it. But I often find entrepreneurs who are of the mistaken belief that somebody else should put up the funding and they will put up the idea. No, it won't happen. Potentially you could get lucky, but 99 out of 100 situations, you need to have some money, you need to demonstrate a concept that is already successful or has prospects, and then the next stage is going to be, okay, I'm looking for somebody to help me expand this. I already have this, I've paid taxes on it. Here are the accounts, I'm looking to grow this business. I often find people are looking for funding at that very early stage. You're unlikely to find it. Who will finance it? A bank won't finance it. Most people are looking for debt. Now, debt is like running a race. The faster you go, you're in a car going up a steep hill, debt is like putting more fuel, more gas, speed it up. But the moment you make a mistake, you will crash. If you're going at a more manageable speed, which means debt-free, when you come across some kind of turbulence, you can survive the situation. If you are heavily indebted, that business will go bankrupt. The best of businesses are known to fall. Large, structured, successful ones, the moment they begin to have over a certain volume of debt. You also have a lot of SMEs overtrading. That's an accounting term that basically says you don't have enough capital to operate the business. So you're desperately trying to pick up credit here, you're late on your payments, but what you're doing is really you're eroding your credibility. When you don't make your payments on time, when you don't settle your taxes, you're destroying the business at that point and you're unlikely to get funding going forward. I'll look at now the 7th challenge, reliance and trust. The moment somebody says to me, Barclays Bank are going to pay me on Friday at 17 hours, I automatically have a certain reliance that that's going to happen. If it doesn't happen on Friday, perhaps it'll happen on Monday. But if you go into a bank and say, Mafipe Chunga and company have given me a contract to build this structure, and I'd like to borrow against it, they're unlikely to finance it. And the truth is, it's because we've eroded that reliance people had in Zambian businesses. People don't have faith that a Zambian business will deliver. And I'll close here with an interesting story. In about 2010, at the office, we were doing recruitments. So at the time, we used to place adverts in the papers on behalf of clients. So you go to the Daily Mail, you wait in a queue, and then you put your advert. 2 days later, it appears. And I met a gentleman who told me that he was an agent for the Daily Mail. And I asked him, how much do you charge for the service? And he said, we don't charge for the service, we get commission from Daily Mail. I said, this is wonderful. So I can call you to the office and make the payment to you? And he said, yes. Okay, fine. A client of ours then gave us a job to do some recruitment. So I needed to put an ad in the papers. It was a full-page ad. At the time, it was 10,000 kwacha a day. It was going to appear for 20 days. So that was 200,000 kwacha. This guy I'd met just twice, local business person. I called him to the office, signed off the check, gave it to him. Everything was fine. That was Monday. The ad was meant to appear on Wednesday. And the client called and said there's a problem. They need to make an adjustment to the advert. They then took 3 months to come back and say you can run the advert. Every day that passed, my blood pressure was rising and saying, if these guys don't put the advert, I will be fired and accused of theft. So I nervously called up this guy and said, are you able to run the advert? And he said to me, yes, I am. And the next day, his phone was off. That was it now. I had high blood pressure. This is it. I'm done. But on the Wednesday, the advert appeared and continued to appear for the next 20 days. I've lost touch with him. So if he can see me now or he comes across this, he should get in touch with me. But basically, we need to reestablish that trust in local businesses. When you tell somebody that this work will be done on Friday, it needs to be done on Friday. When you say that I will pay on Monday, it should mean I will pay on Monday. Thank you very much. Buy Zambia, build Zambia. God bless Zambia. Thank you very much.